This lens is dead. The Tokina 11-16 is the first lens to ever die on me. I've never had a lens die on me before. I am pretty careful with my equipment, especially lenses, because they're damn expensive. So for this to be the first one to go, that's sad. Sad in many ways. I thought, because I've been doing a few videos recently about me talking about how I work and stuff, I thought something I can branch into is equipment. I won't do that all today because today I thought, why not commemorate the memories of this amazing lens in a video? So I thought I'd just talk about it a little bit. I love this lens. This has been a very interesting lens for me, and I want to talk about why. So first of all, like I said, it's 11-16 millimeters, which makes it a pretty damn wide lens. 11 millimeters is pretty much scraping the boundaries of how wide you want to go on a camera with a cropped sensor. It's got a fixed aperture of 2.8, which I like because I really like lenses with fixed apertures. It means the aperture's constant. 2.8 is relatively fast, lets in a lot of light. The lens is built like a tank. It was relatively inexpensive, and yeah, it's served me really well. It's been a big part of my growing as a filmmaker, I suppose. I learned a lot from this lens, which sounds insane and stupid, but hear me out. I got this lens late 2011, and then summer of 2012 is when I really used it a lot. Let me paint a picture for you. Summer of 2012, uni was on break. Me and Jamie were living in our house in Farnham with nothing to do but make films. I had a super wide lens, I had a 50mm prime lens, and I had a full frame 5D. This is a very odd combination, and I'm going to explain why. The range of this is 11-16 millimeters. That's not very much. And so when the only other thing you have is 50 millimeters, there's nothing in between. And that limits you a lot. However, me and Jamie made that work. We made it work as a stylistic thing, and it really pushed us to experiment with using what we had as an aesthetic choice. So for example, PJ Tiny Planet Explorer was shot entirely on these two lenses. Quick side note, PJ Tiny Planet Explorer won the Virgin Media Shorts People's Choice Award, which kind of shows that you don't necessarily need a huge crew and loads of expensive equipment to make a film, and for that film to go somewhere. Just something to think about. The 1.850mm is a plastic piece of shit, everybody knows that, but it's cheap and it's a good lens. I have recently upgraded to the 1.4 50mm, which is a lot sturdier, it feels a lot better. I just took this and one other lens to Japan. The lens I'm shooting on now, actually, I took that and this to Japan, and it did me great. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about what it was like making films on just two lenses. Like I said, the limitations were helpful because it gave us set parameters to work with. So what else is it about these two lenses and the 5D that make it a weird combination? Well, that would be down to the sensor of the 5D. The bigger the sensor, the more light that hits it, the better the image quality. A camera like this, the 70D, has a cropped sensor, also known as an APS-C sensor, essentially. Okay, so imagine this here is our sensor. The 5D has a full frame sensor. The light is hitting this whole thing, and that's the image we see. However, the 70D, or a camera with a cropped sensor, an APS-C sensor, sees that much. It's cropped. There's less surface area for the light to hit, which means you need to bump the ISO up to accommodate for it, which makes the image grainy, which makes the image quality lesser. So now let's imagine this lid is an 11mm lens. You stick it on a cropped APS-C sensor, it looks good, it fills the screen. But you stick it on a full frame sensor, and you've got all of this around it. This is just gonna be darkness. This is gonna be vignetting darkness because it's not big enough to fit around the whole sensor, like the 5D does when you put an 11mm lens on it. That's kind of the best I can explain it, so I hope that makes sense. So 11mm on a 70D with a cropped sensor looks pretty good. You don't want to go too much wider than an 11 on a cropped sensor because then you're going to start to see vignetting, which is not something you want. However, if you go to 11 on a full frame sensor like the 5D, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. So you have to stick at 16. You really have to stick at 16mm. So now that I'm thinking about it, summer of 2012, when we were making films, I had a prime lens at 50mm. And yeah, this is a zoom lens, but at the time, it might as well have just been a prime lens stuck at 16mm because you can't go any wider on a camera like this, otherwise it looks bad. So just to recap, me and Jamie were making films on a 5D, two lenses, one at 50mm, one at 16mm, that we never went wider on because it would have looked bad, and that's it. And we never saw the limitations as a hindrance. We used it to our advantage as much as we could, and we learned so much from it. And this lens, man, this freaking lens. So that's my little story about why I love this lens so much. I am gonna replace the Tokina, but not with another Tokina. I'm gonna try something a little bit different now. A lens that should be arriving any minute now. I really just hope the door buzzes whilst I'm filming this. But I'm not gonna talk about that in this video. I might do that in another video. This is the final video in which the Tokina will ever see daylight. is going into retirement. Thank you very much for all the great memories. Thanks for helping me make the films I did, but you don't work anymore. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not to you, I'm sorry to the lens, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you learned a little something about cameras, and I will see you next time.